This is Camp Ibis, and we're towing a trailer. We got a travel trailer here with us, which is our usual mode of transportation and living out here. So these are actually roads that were put here in the 40s for military practice. They would practice munitions out here and tanks and things like that for World War II. You know, I walked this whole way, and it's probably half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile to where we're going to set up camp. But I really have to pre-check these roads, because if I just have the truck, it's fine. You know, I can get in and out real easily. But you can see these roads are a little bit worn down, and there's big spots where they're really washed out, and there'd be no way I could get my trailer through. So the dogs and I walked this morning, and I determined that there's a really good campsite not too far up in here, and then we're going to be further away from the highway, which will reduce the noise a little bit. And then also, as people come into this area to camp, you know, we'll be spaced out more and more. There was a van that came in last night and camped pretty close to us. You know, no big deal, it doesn't matter. You know, they were quiet and everything, we were quiet. But it's always nice to be secluded, especially when you're in a place like this that has a lot of history, because I want to do some more exploring here. There's some really neat things to see and discover. There's areas of this place that I haven't been to yet. It's very vast. I mean, it goes miles that way and miles back this way towards these mountains. Where we are is called the Dead Mountain Wilderness. These are the Dead Mountains out here. And if you haven't seen the Got Out channel before, these are my dogs. That's Echo. This is Dodger. He's my old hiking buddy. And we live this lifestyle now. We've been doing this for 3 years now with the truck and the trailer, and we stay in the forest and deserts and hills and mountains wherever we can. And I go into town every couple weeks to get my supplies, get water, dump our tanks in the trailer, things like that, get groceries. And other than that, we spend most of our time out in the outdoors like this as much as we can. And having the trailer, you know, makes it really pretty easy, because we live pretty nice in the trailer. You know, people think trailer life maybe isn't that great, but let me tell you, it's not that bad. It's pretty windy here, and that's one of the reasons we're moving spots too, because I figured I can get the trailer positioned so the broadside of the trailer isn't in contact with the wind, will be aimed into the wind, because it was windy all night last night. So the trailer's rocking, and you know, it's not too bad, but it's kind of not that great either. So in this new spot, we'll be able to position in a way that the wind is going to have a minimal effect as far as like rocking it. Actually, it probably will be pretty stable, because you know, the trailer really only rocks side to side. When you're attached to the truck, it's pretty stable, you know, the long way. Let's check out this road. So this area was all tents out here in the 40s. So the soldiers would come out here and do whatever they needed to do, but they lived in canvas tents. So as we explore here, what you'll see is, like out here you can see some rock piles, but you'll see lots of trails that have been designated by the soldiers, and areas that are kind of marked off where the tents would be. And there's like these square areas, there's circles, there's sort of like maybe like little landing platforms or stationing platforms for military vehicles, that kind of thing. And then here's one of the cross streets that comes through here. And like I said, there's just blocks and blocks of these streets, and they're all just dirt roads. They're really mostly completely washed out. As far as like getting a vehicle through them anymore, there's very few that you can traverse all the way through with a normal vehicle. You would need something like an ATV, something really heavy duty off-road to get through some of them, because it just washes out here coming down from the mountains, and it just washes everything out. Now, this road does get washed out up here, but right before it is the spot where I found a campsite, and it's actually kind of a turnaround. So we can camp there and we'll be able to turn around with the trailer. Here's another side road. And now we've come to what's going to be our camp. You can see someone's got a fire pit here. Now this is the road we were on coming in here, and you can see how it just gets washed out right here. If I had to, I could get the trailer through, but I'm not going to attempt that, you know, unless it was an emergency. But in this spot that I got here, we can come right out here and turn around and go right back out the way we came real easily. So that's just something you kind of have to look for when you're looking for a campsite when you're towing a trailer. And I'm lucky because I got a fairly small trailer compared to some of the trailers you see are a lot bigger. Now what's really neat is just right here is some of the old structures that were built here, like I was saying, back in the 40s. So you're gonna see a lot more of this coming up. And then there's some really neat stuff. There's some stuff that I know is out here that I've been to before, and there's some stuff that I have not seen, which we're gonna explore together. And some of it is way out there, like close to the base of those mountains. So we're gonna trek all the way out there and see. There's something out there. I'm not sure what it is at all. So this is where we live. The dogs and I, we've been out here for a few nights now. This is one of my favorite places to camp. This is all public land out here. It's pretty vast. It's mostly just flat desert with washes that kind of pepper through here. There's some good hiking, and you know, there's some things to see. What you're going to see today is something that I think is just amazing. It's super cool. It's about 80 years old, and we're living in it. We're living right here where hundreds, I think maybe thousands of soldiers were camped in the 40s for World War II. And they were doing training here for tank battles and other kinds of munitions and things like that. There's even a spot I could see on Google Maps, and it's a crater. And I'm assuming they must have blown something up there at some point. So we'll visit that. And mostly what you're going to see here is just remnants of the tent camps that were here. There weren't really many permanent structures. There is some water facilities, which we'll see here as I take you on this tour. But a lot of what you're going to see is stuff like this, which is these rock little pathways that are marked just with piles of rocks, basically. And those have been here for 80 years. And I just find that super interesting, because what you'll see is these rocks will be placed in a way that you can see where the tents were. And this goes for miles. It's several miles long, and about a mile and a half deep out from the main road. And it doesn't go all the way to the mountains there, because there's a huge wash that goes in between where we are right now and then the mountains. Just kind of giving you an idea of the landscape out here. But this is Camp Ibis. And you can see photos from the 40s of what this place looked like. And you'll see tents, and then you'll see stuff like this around the tents, which is just these rock sort of, I don't know what you call them. They're not really walls. They're just little pathways. And these rocks have been here for 80 years. This is one of the spots that I like to visit when I'm here, because it's about as ornate as it's going to get here. Is you got this big star here with white quartz. marking it. If you hike around here, this is basically the center of the camp. So I think this has some significance. There tends to be more of these structures here. There's kind of another star right here. And then there's one more right here. And so you can see, you can get an idea of where the tents were placed or whatever structures they had. There were something like 200 plus wood framed tents. And from the pictures I can see, they look like they're basically just canvas and then ropes kind of tying them down. Pretty big tents. And the soldiers would stay in there. But then there's also like big, big kind of group tents. It's just the idea for me, like the idea that these rocks have been here in this same pattern for 80 years, and somebody came out here and put these here. While the soldiers were like in their off time and they're bored or whatever, they were probably laying these rocks out to mark their little campsites. Now there's something out there in the wash that I've seen on Google Maps, and I don't know anything about it. I don't even know if it has to do with Camp Ibis, but it must. And it looks fairly big. You never know what you're gonna find. But that's a place that I wanna check out while I'm here, because I've never seen it, and there's not a lot left out here, and it looks like one of the bigger sort of, I'm gonna call them structures that's out here. Now what I'm hiking to now is well, you'll see it. And I got my dogs with me, of course. They're always with me. If you haven't seen the Got Out channel before, this is what we do. We're full-time nomads, me and my two dogs. And we live in our trailer back there. And we travel around and we camp for a week or two in different places. And we do a lot of hiking, a lot of like basic exploring, and checking out all the free places that you can camp. This is BLM land, which is Bureau of Land Management land, which is public land. So anybody can camp here. There's a stay limit of 2 weeks, which is pretty typical for most of the federal land, public land, including like national forests and BLM land. It's usually 2 weeks is the maximum you can stay, and then you have to move on. It's usually about 25 or 30 miles. Sometimes you have to move to a completely different national forest area. So there are some basic rules to it. You can't stay out here for, months and months. There are people that do that, but we don't. We move after every couple of weeks. We got Dodger back there. He's a main part of the Got Out channel. He will help us get back to camp. No matter how far we go out here, he'll help us get back to camp in the most direct route. Right now, I'm just sort of remembering this one location I want to go to right now. That's a major part of what's left out here at Camp Ibis. I'm just sort of remembering it's in this direction. Now, I can get on Google Maps and it'll show me right where we are, and so I might have to do that in a little bit. But it's fun to just kind of walk through here and see what you run into. And all these old dirt roads out here, a lot of them are washed out now. So you can't, even if you have a pickup truck, like I got a 4x4 truck, they're washed out in certain places where you can't even get a truck through there. In some places you couldn't even get an ATV through because they're just washed out so much because the washes come through here and just kind of tear up these roads. But these are the original roads. If you look on Google Maps, you can see the layout. It's this nice grid, and then there's a big circle in the center of the camp. So it's fun to walk these roads and just imagine the vehicles that would be driven through here and the soldiers that would be hiking through here, going to their camps, doing whatever kind of training things they were doing. I'm not a historian. Honestly, I haven't read up about this place very much, but I've seen some pictures and that gives me the drive to like find these places that I've seen in the photos. And there's big holes in the roadways where there are animals going through there, but also what happens is the washes come through, and if they don't tear up the road completely, they just kind of go through these holes. And so this road is kind of hollow in a sense. So if you took a heavy vehicle through here enough times, it could collapse. So there's that danger too. But we got pretty far in the truck and the trailer. I hiked the road beforehand to make sure that it was safe to travel. Echo? No. Sit. Hey. Sit. Now, Echo has a tendency to chase stuff. I haven't seen anything out here. I know there are rabbits. He doesn't know the word rabbit. He knows the word bunny. And that'll get him triggered if I say that. So that might be, I think that's probably what he's sensing right now. Because I can tell if it's a deer, then he reacts a little bit differently. But he's sensing something, so there is something out here. I'm gonna put him on his leash just in case. Echo, sit. Sit, stay. There's our camp right over there. And what I'm hiking to right now is I see these, looks like railroad ties. Let's see what this is. Actually, I've never seen this before. This is interesting. I mean, this has got to be part of the camp. I've seen a few of these big holes that are filled in with rocks. See if I can find those on this hike. This kind of looks like that. I have no idea what this is originally for. But somebody pulled these beams up out of here for whatever reason. There were a lot of latrines out here, so maybe this has something to do with that. It also kind of makes me think of a mine, but I'm not really sure about mining going on out here. Near these those railroad ties, I'm finding these big cans. I wonder if these are 80-year-old cans. Here's a good example of how the roads get washed out. So you wouldn't be able to get through here. And now we're reaching one of the few, kind of one of the only real structures left here on Camp Ibis. This is the Camp Ibis Reservoir. It's pretty big, and this is over 80 years old. It's cool to me just to think that people were building this and then they were surviving off of the water that was stored in here. Echo, jump. Okay. There's our camp way out there. Like right there. Dodger, he's doing really good out here, but we have a little ways to go, and it's kind of terrain that I'm not familiar with. We got to go down in here into these washes, probably maybe a half a mile out there. So I'm thinking we might turn around and go back and come back out here later. I can bring Mr. Echo out and just leave Dodger back at camp. But I'm glad we walked at least this far, because now I'm seeing a structure that I've never seen out here before. And my first thought is like, oh, it's some old latrine situation. There's a big hole covered with a metal plate there. Big chunk of cement. And there's nails sticking up here. So I gotta be careful not to step on that. Dodger's the first one to test it out. He smells something in there. So let's see what it is. I mean, it's probably not pretty, whatever it is. I just feel like bats are gonna come flying out or something. Who knows what that is? Can you hear that echo? It sounds like it goes down pretty far. If you have any idea what this could be used for, put it down in the comments, because I love to learn about this kind of stuff. There's a little bit more cement right here, and I see some cables over here. That may or may not have anything to do with this. Could be some sort of like well system to get water out, because this is kind of a major part of the wash. I decided we should keep hiking because the weather's so nice out right now. I do smell rain, and it looks like we might get some rain, but the sun isn't out, so it's good hiking weather, and we just keep stumbling upon stuff. This doesn't look like much. It kind of just looks like a cattle pen, but I haven't seen any sign of any cattle out here at all. In fact, like, as far as signs of anything, I see very little out here. So I want to go down and check out what this pen is about. It does look newer, although I do see the barbed wire looks pretty old on it, but those posts don't look like they're 80 years old. And I see a lot of pallets around, and then there's this metal pipe right there, which is probably a trough, something like that. And now I see something white out here. I'm gonna get my binoculars out and see if I can figure out what that white thing is out there. I just can't not know what is out here. If I see something in the distance, I just want to know what it is. And this is just such good hiking weather. What we're trying to go to is kind of just on the other side of this big wash out there. So that's some pretty easy hiking. In fact, it looks like there's a road that kind of goes out there. Let's go check this out.